They say money is logical, but your brain isn't. Every time you spend, save, or invest, you think you're making a rational choice. You're not, because inside your head, two ancient forces are fighting for control, one fast, impulsive, emotional, and the other, slow, careful, and deliberate. This war has been going on since the dawn of humanity, and if you don't understand it, it will quietly drain your wealth, your time, and your peace of mind. And the irony is, the system that once helped our ancestors survive in the wild is the same system that now makes us poor in the modern world. Imagine you're standing in front of a buffet. There's a salad, and there's chocolate cake. You promised yourself you'd eat healthy, but before you even finish that thought, your hand is already reaching for the cake. That's system one: quick, emotional, automatic. It runs on impulse, habit, and intuition. It's fast because speed meant survival. Now imagine you stop. You take a breath. You think, wait, I'll regret this later. That's system two: slow, conscious, rational. It takes energy to activate. It thinks before acting. In life, system one reacts. System two reflects. And when it comes to money, most people live their entire lives ruled by system one. Every impulse buy, every panic sell, every "I'll start saving next month," these are not random mistakes. They are the fingerprints of system one at work. It loves instant gratification. It hates waiting. It overestimates today and underestimates tomorrow. That's why millions of people spend more than they earn, why investors chase hype instead of value, and why the lottery industry is worth billions. Because system one doesn't care about logic. It cares about emotion. It's the voice that whispers, "Buy it now, you deserve it. Everyone's investing in that stock, don't miss out. You can always save later." System one is fast, confident, and wrong. System two is slow, doubtful, and right, but it often arrives too late. Kahneman proved that most of our financial behavior is not rational, it's predictably irrational. We make decisions based on how we feel, not on what's true. That's why when the market crashes, people panic. That's why when prices rise, people buy more. That's why we fear loss more than we value gain. This is called loss aversion, one of the deepest biases buried in your brain. Losing $100 feels almost twice as painful as winning $100 feels good. And this pain is what system one is trying to avoid at all costs. It wants safety, comfort, and reassurance, even if that means making the wrong financial choice. You're not just fighting greed or fear, you're fighting evolution itself. Let me tell you a story. A man named David started investing during a market boom. Every day, his portfolio grew, and so did his confidence. Then came the crash. He watched his stocks fall, and panic took over. He sold everything at the bottom. A few months later, the market recovered. He lost not because he was unlucky, but because his system one won. Here's the truth. System one runs most of your financial life. When you open your phone and see a limited time sale, system one says, "Buy now before it's gone." When a friend brags about a crypto win, system one says, "Maybe I should too." When you lose money, system one says, "Never invest again." It whispered, "Get out before it's too late." And in that moment, his brain's survival system designed to run from lions made him run from opportunity. The brain doesn't know the difference between danger and discomfort. It only knows fear. It's the same primitive brain that once helped cavemen avoid starvation, now trying to manage credit cards and portfolios. The world evolved. Your brain didn't. And that's why smart people do dumb things with money. Your brain loves shortcuts. Psychologists call them heuristics. They save time, but they also create blind spots. For example, anchoring bias. You judge value based on the first number you see. That's why, was $299, now $199, feels like a good deal even if you didn't need it. Herd behavior. You follow the crowd because it feels safer than thinking alone. Confirmation bias. You only seek information that supports your existing beliefs. These shortcuts are fast. System one loves them, but they're expensive. Because every time you rely on emotion instead of reason, you trade long-term wealth for short-term comfort. The truth is, you can't turn system one off. You were born with it, But you can train yourself to let System 2 take the wheel, especially when money's on the line. Because the rich don't think differently because they're smarter. They think differently because they pause. They give System 2 the time to speak. Your brain runs on two engines, System 1 and System 2. System 1 is ancient. It's fast, emotional, and instinctive, the reason you swerve before you think, buy before you plan, and panic before you analyze. System 2 is modern, slow, deliberate, logical. It questions, calculates, and decides with reason. You need both. But here's the problem in money. System 1 almost always speaks first. It makes you chase what feels good now, even when it destroys what's best later. That's why people buy at the peak and sell at the dip. Why they spend on status, not security. Why they confuse motion for progress. System 1 trades logic for comfort. System 2 trades comfort for clarity. And the difference between the broke and the wealthy often comes down to which system they listen to most. Every bad money habit is a psychological trap. The FOMO trap: when everyone's making money, you panic and follow. The crowd feels safe until it isn't. The status trap: you buy things not because you need them, but because they say something about you. But every time you spend to impress, you lose both money and meaning. The sunk cost trap: you stay in losing investments or jobs because you've come too far. You don't want to lose what's already lost. The present bias: you value the next hour more than the next decade. That's why saving feels painful and spending feels rewarding. And the risk illusion: you fear short-term loss more than long-term decay. You avoid investing, not realizing that safety is often the slowest way to go broke. These aren't financial errors, they're neurological ones. System 1 built them to help your ancestors survive. But survival isn't the goal anymore, freedom is. To win with money, you don't need a new strategy. You need a new mindset. Here's the truth: you can't delete System 1, but you can train System 2 to take control. Start with the pause, the moment before you act. When you feel excitement, fear, or urgency, wait. That pause is where logic lives. Then, automate discipline. Remove the choice: auto-save, auto-invest, auto-grow. When systems work for you, emotions can't work against you. Finally, define enough. System 1 will always whisper more. System 2 asks, why? True wealth isn't about buying anything, it's about the freedom to say no. Because the goal of money isn't control over others, it's control over yourself. Every financial mistake is emotional. Every financial success is behavioral. The moment you understand that, you stop asking, how do I make more? And start asking, how do I think better? And that's where real wealth begins, not in your wallet, but in your mind.